Hey guys, ECRG here, back with another episode. As you can see by the title of this episode, we're talking about are CRAs burnt out from remote monitoring? Are CRAs burnt out from remote monitoring? So this topic comes up. I recently had lunch with a friend of mine. He works for a very large CRO. For all you OG listeners who've been listening for a while, I actually had him on about 2 to 3 years ago. We did an interview, so he is one of my guests and personal friend of mine. We were talking about remote monitoring and if we as CRAs like it. And we both talked about how much we hate remote monitoring. Hate remote monitoring. And it's not because it's not good. I mean, I was a former central monitor, in-house CRA, remote monitor, whatever you want to call it. And we know remote monitoring is the future. But part of the joy of being a CRA is not working that normal 9 to 5 kind of work. I love being on the road. My flight takes off at 12, so I, sleep in, wake up at 10. I love the lifestyle of it. I love it while everyone's sitting on their computer at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. in the morning. I could be on a flight somewhere. I could be walking around New York City, in Manhattan, Central Park, Soho, you name it. I could be, on the beach in Puerto Rico, on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. I could be, walking around Bourbon Street in New Orleans at any given time. You know what I'm saying? I love the lifestyle of being a CRA. And remote monitoring is kind of a change from that because CRA is hard work, believe it or not. It's funny because a lot of people think we don't work. So people calling me all times of the day, acting like I don't work, I don't have a job to do. Well, it's just funny because I guess you see some of the other perks and how we live our life that you might think it's not a lot of work, but we work very, very hard. But the thing with the remote monitoring is you're doing all the work, but there's no perks. There's no lifestyle of it. It's just 9 to 5. There's a lot more admin work than CRAs like. We don't really like putting our documents in the TMF, naming documents. We want someone else to do that. Things like that. But remote monitoring, you have to do all that stuff. Following up, tons and tons of emails. We have a lot of emails as a normal monitor too, but way more as a remote monitor. A lot more things to keep track of too. So yeah, I don't really like remote monitoring. Other CRAs might feel differently, but there's a reason why we're a CRA is because we don't want to be remote. That's the reason why I wanted to be a CRA for a long time, because I did not want to be remote. Want to get out in the field, want to get my hands dirty, want to move and groove, want to meet people, talk to people, interface with people, all those type of things. So what happened is during the pandemic, everything shut down. You could no longer go onto sites. Sites were not welcoming CRAs on site anymore. Some sites did, depending on what state you were in. They said they didn't close down at all. It just depended on the site. But what happened is everything had to shift to remote monitoring. And, we've been remote monitoring the whole entirety of the pandemic. So from, I think, March 2020, when things started shutting down, all the way through the rest of 2020, all the way, and, even still, June 2021, July 2021, there's still a component of remote monitoring. Remote monitoring did not go away just because the pandemic is coming to an end or, in the process of coming to an end. So even though sites opened up, there were still remote monitoring components to it. And not all sites opened up at the same time too. Some sites still weren't allowing people on site, even though it was June, July 2021. Almost a year and a third have passed. So definitely a breath of fresh air when a site does open up and you don't have to do all those tracking things anymore. So that was nice. But we know remote monitoring is here to stay. If any of you CRAs or people have been out or have received word about other studies coming through, other protocols, you will know that there's going to be a contingency plan for remote monitoring in there. Remote monitoring is here to stay. In case there's another pandemic, in case there's something else that happens, it's here to stay. And even the companies that have been long traditional fans of traditional monitoring, 100% SDV, they're moving towards a more remote risk-based monitoring approach. Less days on site, less visits, but more sites each monitor is going to be responsible for. Things are changing, guys. But there was a lot of good things with the traditional monitoring as far as lifestyle goes for the CRA. It's very, very nice being on the road and no one's emailing you, questioning you, calling you because you're busy. They know you're a CRA. You're on a flight somewhere. You're on a plane somewhere. You're busy on site somewhere. They know not to call you. But with the remote monitoring, you're expected to be online, expected to be in front of your computer, less flexibility. And that's a CRA's worst nightmare, is less flexibility. There's a reason why we're CRAs, guys. Because we love the lifestyle. We love the flexibility. We love being out there on the road. So, it's going to be interesting because a time is going to come when they're going to need way less traveling from the CRAs. So the CRAs now, are they going to stick around for that shift to remote when they're asked to stay home more? When they're asked to do all these things remotely? Are they going to stick around? Is it the same type of people? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to like that as much. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to like that as much. Now, of course, there's still going to be an on-site component. It's not going to totally go away. There's still going to be a heavy on-site component. No doubt about that. But I mean, even if the money is the exact same, which most of the time it probably will be exact same, but the perks won't be the same. So it's not really going to be the same. For example, you're not going to be getting tons of Hilton points, Delta points, or American points, or Marriott points, whoever you're with, Hyatt. There's tons of perks out there that CRAs get from traveling. Like, for example, when you're platinum or diamond with Hilton or whatever airline you choose, they treat you way different than if you are silver or have no status. And I love that for personal travel. If I need to change a flight, no problem, ECRG will do that for you. If I need to get in earlier, let's say I get done on site earlier and there's a flight, I can catch a flight earlier to get home a little bit earlier. No problem, ECRG will do that for you. And I love that because they know I'm coming with another few $1,000s in expenses the next month or the month after that. You guys saw, if you haven't seen my episode on how much CRA spend in a month, you guys should check that out. But yeah, and I love that. But it's not going to be the same if you're traveling less as a remote monitor. It's not going to be the same. So our CRA is going to put up with that. Our CRA is going to put up with more people on their back, people emailing them and asking for these deadlines and metrics. There's going to be way more metrics with this remote monitoring stuff, guys. And CRAs are used to having some metrics, but not all metrics are good metrics. So I think what's going to have to happen is CRAs are probably going to turn over and go into different positions. They're going to either beg for more traditional monitoring or more field monitoring. There's going to be a turnover in this industry. I know some companies were already experimenting with hybrid roles where you have basically more remote, but they still go out and travel as a regular CRA does. And of course, different studies will require different things. But they're already experimenting with this stuff. So is less travel on the horizon for CRAs? I believe it is. And that means more remote monitoring, guys. So it's something to get used to. And I can't stand remote monitoring. I'm burnt out from it. All the remote back and forth, it takes way longer to do anything. Now, if you have a bunch of electronic stuff, if you're doing a lot of studies, don't forget, during the pandemic, we're not expecting to have to go remote. So they weren't built that way. But now studies, I'm sure, are going to be using more electronic documentation. For example, accountability. If they were no longer using an online accountability manager, they were using logs, paper logs. Same thing for temperature, reading temperature of the IP, things like that. All that stuff is going electronic. All that stuff is going electronic, guys. Because you might need to run a report and send it to your CRA fast. You don't have time to be sitting there and scanning all those documents, pages and pages and pages of temperature reports, or figuring out, what's going on with the accountability. Electronic stuff makes it way faster. Or if you need to pull CVs and medical licenses for your staff that the CRA needs to review, why wouldn't you just house that electronically at the site level? And, site's already doing that, but we're going more electronic, guys. And be prepared for this wave of remote monitoring to happen. There's going to be a lot of good and a lot of bad, per se, that happens because of it. One of the best things, I guess, at the investor level, the investors in these companies liked during the pandemic was way less expenses because of the less travel from CRAs. A lot of these companies made a lot more money. I'm not going to say the CROs, but pharmaceutical companies, they made a lot of money during the pandemic because people still needed the drug, but their expenses went way down. Way less travel. Tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in travel. These people, the CRAs, are booking across the company. So, yeah, guys. That's just definitely something to keep in mind. So, hope this was helpful. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Email me at eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns. Take care, guys.